Hi, good morning, good evenings, or good afternoon, depending on where you join in all around the world. Welcome and thank you for all your participations and joining us for our first Cine Meetup sessions for the years of 2022 today. Before we start, I wish to extend my deepest warm sympathies to those who are recently impacted by the flood disasters in New South Wales of Queensland. We hope you, your families, friends, and neighborhood are safe and sound by now and getting adequate support for recovery purpose. The COVID situation is still pretty uncertain, though the international borders has opened up and domestic restrictions has eased off so far. We're still waiting for more instructions as when the Sydney Meetup may return to hosting in person. We'll keep you posted as we have more information. Meanwhile, welcome to our first virtual meetup of the year today, and I wish to express my biggest gratitude to all of you who tune in. We have reasonably great registrations, and hopefully they turn up today as well. So thank you for your support. And next slide. Let me introduce again all our Cine Meetup leader. If you haven't known about us, if you have any feedback, questions, feel free to contact us anytime. We are, if you're not a Cine Meetup member yet, we welcome you to join this group of chapters so that you will get notified for all future events. You can easily contact us by navigating to the Cine Meetup group link here. Next slide. We are very honored today to have invited two very experienced integrations architects from our partners Accenture to share with us the integration patterns with Salesforce, Commerce Cloud, and Vlocity Cloud using MuleSoft. They have completed a massive enterprise integrations project leveraging on these patterns. Next slide. A brief agenda. We'll be starting off with a few key announcements from Royston while waiting for many more attendees to join in before diving into our speaker content today. I hope all of you stay until the end of the sessions as we have trivia contests at the end, and we'll be giving away many of the wonderful MuleSoft prizes and goodies to the winners. Throughout the sessions, all audience line will be muted. Please post any of your questions via the Q&A link. Soon I'll be sharing in the chat window. We won't be picking up any questions from the chat panels directly, so please remember to post your questions using the link shared in the chat sessions that I will be sharing with you. The presenter slides and recording will be shared with you within 24 to 48 hours on the same event registrations page where you register for the events today. So without further ado, I'm handing over to Royston to start announcements.
Great. Thank you very much, Eva. It's a pleasure to be back here again with the Sydney Meetup. So I'll take a few minutes to take the community through some relevant announcements for this month. We start off by making sure that you're aware that we are not the only meetup that happens around the world. We have meetups happening every week, every day, all across the world. And the benefit of being in a post-COVID environment is that you can join them from anywhere. And so I strongly encourage you to look at the event schedule, which you can find using the link at the bottom there. And you'll be able to see all the meetups that are happening, as well as all the topics that are going to be covered. If you have not joined the online English group meetup before, that's one where I'm also a co-leader on. And we had a session just a couple of weeks ago on Salesforce streaming APIs. So if you are interested in that topic, the slides and recordings is available on that event page. We do have some upcoming on-demand webinars, as well as some live webinars. These webinars are more tailored to people who are practicing with MuleSoft within organizations, and many of them are tailored for non-technical audiences as well. So that could include people who consider themselves C4E leads, or project managers, or platform owners. I want to call out two webinars that are coming up soon. One is the one on the left, which is accelerating this C4E delivery with an API community. So I've got some colleagues of mine from our global team who are going to be presenting some stories in that webinar over there. And on the right-hand side, there is a webinar that was held earlier this year, which is now available on demand. So if any of the points on screen interest you, I strongly recommend heading over to those event pages so you can catch the content at a time of your own leisure. I'm happy to announce that the MuleSoft Mentor Program is accepting nominations at the moment. So some of you might have noticed that we've announced a new set of ambassadors and mentors recently. However, if you yourself are interested or want to understand what is involved in being part of this program, you can learn more at mulesoft.com/mentors. Just as a very brief overview of the requirements, a MuleSoft mentor needs to hold at least one certification, and there has to be a general interest in becoming a more active contributor across the community. There are benefits for being a mentor, including getting recognition and getting other benefits from MuleSoft. So I do encourage you, if that's an avenue of professional development that you're looking for, to head to mulesoft.com/mentors for more information over there. We do have Friends of Max videos constantly being released. For anyone who's not aware, the Friends of Max videos are roughly 10 to 15-minute videos covering a wide breadth of topics, anything from implementing REST APIs using API Kit to dependency management. And so they allow you to get a quick overview before you dive deeper using the documentation. These videos are created by members of the MuleSoft team, but we also have recently had ambassadors who've created videos as well in the community. I wanted to call out that these are the top videos in February on the right-hand side. And so if you are interested in any of these topics, the videos are currently publicly available. The links are on this slide. However, you can also search for the videos on the MuleSoft videos website or on our YouTube website as well. For those of you who are using connectors in your applications, which should be all of the developers over here, I wanted to call out that we have 12 new connectors released for Studio, and these are available on Endpoint Exchange. So all of the ones are on the left with the underline. They are now being launched, and there's a blog post that summarizes how you can use them as well. If you are already using them, then maybe it's a good idea to check if you can update it to the latest version so you get the latest functionality. We've also launched some Composer connectors. Composer is a slightly different product within the MuleSoft ecosystem. However, it is also having a growing range of connectors being launched. I think we are at roughly 20 now. So again, if you use these applications or you have some use cases that you want to try out, this is a very good opportunity to use that functionality. If you have any questions about any of the announcements, feel free to put them in the Q&A link or mention them in the chat, where I'll answer them. I now have the great pleasure of introducing Tushar and Satyendra, who are going to be doing our main presentation for today. So I will let them take over the screen sharing.
Right. Thanks, Roy, and thanks, Eva, for the introduction. I'm Tushar. I'm working with Accenture as a technical architect and MuleSoft practice lead. So today we'll go with the agenda. That's velocity and SFC integration patterns. In today's agenda, we'll cover a brief overview of velocity and as a Salesforce Commerce Cloud, also called as SFCC. Where do they fit in the client requirement? And how MuleSoft does its magic to tie them together during an end-to-end customer journey. How MuleSoft helps Velocity to ingest the enterprise catalog data using Velocity integration patterns, and loading the enterprise catalog into SFCC using SFCC integration pattern. So here you would have questions that what is Velocity, what is SFCC, also called as Salesforce Commerce Cloud, what is enterprise catalog? So we would be uncovering all those details in the upcoming slides. So let's first begin. What is Velocity, also known as Omni Studio? So if we talk about the history, Salesforce acquired Vlocity in 2020. Velocity offers a package solution which promises a sync between core platform and industry-specific solution and processes. In more simple language, Velocity is a managed package solution built on Salesforce that helps to provide industry-specific needs. With the help of Velocity, we can build high-end applications in a faster and low-code environment. For instance, if we speak about telco industry, the data model follows a TMF nomenclature. Now you would have a question that what is TMF? We have attached a link at the end of the slide in the appendix section for TM forum link. It's tmforum.org. So on a high level, almost all telcos follow a TMF nomenclature to be in terms of data modeling or API design. Biggest telcos like AT&T, Singtel, Vodafone, etc. follow this standard. OmniStory offers various data models that serve industries such as insurance, media, entertainment, health, consumer goods, government, and communications. Okay, the next slide will cover how Velocity helps the telco industry to address some of the problem statements. So, in order to describe that, I'll take a fictitious example of a telecommunication company called as TelAU. The telecommunication industry faces a huge ordeal in terms of digital transformation. How does Velocity Communication help here? TelAU, which is a fictitious company, it's one of the ANZ's leading telecom operators and have selected Velocity and Salesforce to boost their digital transformation initiatives in sales and marketing and customer care organizations. What was the issue faced by TelAU? TelAU has a huge customer base of more than 5 million customers. The company has always relied on its legacy on-premise systems that impeded its agility. To become more agile and provide an unparalleled digital experience, TelAU decided to migrate its system to cloud. Velocity coupled with Salesforce Commerce Cloud can help them achieve a solution that enables their agents to deliver a consistent and a personalized customer experience across all the channels. Velocity takes an advantage of omni-channel capabilities of Salesforce, Service Cloud, Enterprise Product Catalog, CPQ, etc., which will replace TelAU's back office application with a cloud-based omni-channel CRM and BSS. BSS is business support applications that provides contact center agents and sales professionals with a more streamlined approach for managing end-to-end customer journeys. Okay, so in the next slide, we'll cover what is Salesforce Commerce Cloud, also known as SFCC. So let's talk about the history of the Commerce Cloud. In 2016, Salesforce acquired Demandware, an e-commerce cloud-based provider for big and small businesses. In 2018, Salesforce acquired CloudCraze, a leading app that focuses on B2B e-commerce sites. So there will be a question, what does Commerce Cloud do? Companies use customer data to reduce cost to help them maintain their profitability. For example, online portals can reduce the service hours. Implementing digital commerce can also help companies lower the cost of entering the new markets, reduce physical store footprints, and enable new business models. So there will be a question, where is Commerce Cloud used? Commerce Cloud is used in big e-commerce giants like Kate Spade, Coach, L'Oreal, Adidas, etc. And there would be a question that who uses Commerce Cloud? Companies who want to increase their customer lifetime value and reducing cost. This is common across verticals like communications and media, insurance, automotive, consumer goods, manufacturing, health, and life sciences. Also, there are some of the key features of Commerce Cloud, that is seamless upgrades, scalability, a suite of cloud services, storefront reference architecture, and order management. In this slide, we'll discuss about how Commerce Cloud helps the telco industries to address some of the problem statements. So point number one is Commerce Cloud powers unified consumer experience. Commerce Cloud connects the full customer experience across all the touch points, enabling a single shared view of customer activity, inventory, product, and promotions. The second point is it provides agility to the brands. So today's leading brands are moving away from homegrown or legacy on-premise commerce systems because they are difficult to maintain and manage. Brands can take better advantage of opportunities with a greater agility using Salesforce unified cloud-based commerce technology and the single version of truth that cuts down the time needed on to synchronize disparate data sources. The third point is it reduces the physical store footprints and enable industry-specific business models. So companies can use the customer data to reduce the cost to help them maintain their profitability. For example, online portals can reduce the service hours. Implementing digital commerce can help the companies to lower the cost of entering the new markets, reduce the physical store footprints, and enable the new business models. And then it provides a personal experience on websites. And the last one is it provides support to multi-brand and multi-site implementations. So for example, a company like Samsung, if they want to launch a particular iPhone or a new product, then it would be seamless to launch it on a particular location, and multi-brand implementation is also seamless with Commerce Cloud. Okay, so these are the features and the problem statements addressed by Commerce Cloud.
Thank you so much, Tushar, for introducing us to these two Salesforce cloud platforms. And now we would like to invite Satyendra to really talk us through how MuleSoft play these important roles to integrate with these cloud platforms. Satyendra.
Thanks, Eva. Thanks, Tushar. So let's first start with what is the enterprise catalog. So most of the people have question here, like as Tushar mentioned, we have two cloud platform, Commerce Cloud as well as the Velocity. So first, try to understand what is enterprise catalog. Enterprise catalog is basically a framework which most of the telcos uses to basically create their product offering. So the product offering can be of two types.
Sorry,
One is
Satyendra, it's a little bit
sellable product.
interruptions. I think your audio is a bit of intermittent. If you can just speak louder a little bit, because the sounds go in and out.
Yes. Yep. It's fine now?
Yep. Now it's better.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, sorry for that. This technical glitch. Okay, so I'll start with the product structure. So the enterprise catalog is mostly has a different offerings. So let's first try to understand enterprise catalog with an example. So let's say we go to any of the big telcos, either Vodafone, Telstra, Optus, anywhere in the Australia, and we want to buy a plan. So the plan usually will be like $39 plan, $49 plan, which will have the data, which will have the voice, which will also have the what type of SIM you want. So all those are different characteristics of that plan. So on the top end, when we go to the any of this telco and buy the product, we only get the plans. We don't understand what is the technical sides behind that, what is happening. So for that, we have tried to explain here. So on a very high level, that particular plans has a different characteristics as well as different specification. So let's start with an example. So for 4G mobile plan, let's say we have a different data plans, we have different voice allowances and different SMS pack and everything. And for that, for the service to be enabled, so the services which includes like voice, data, SMS, these are the services which incorporate that plan. And in the technical side, which is the resource specification, that is basically the SIM card. So SIM card can be of the micro, mini, and also it caters all the activation and deactivation of the SIM card. So that basically explains what is the end-to-end product catalog, or we also call it as an enterprise catalog. So next slide, Tushar, please. Okay, so this is our solution diagram which we have created here for the telco industry. So we have used the different stacks of the application. We have also used the AWS, Velocity, MuleSoft database, as well as Commerce Cloud. So Tushar has already explained us about the Velocity and Commerce Cloud. I'll try to explain that how the AWS, database, and MuleSoft basically plays a pivotal role to connect all the things together and deliver end-to-end solution. So let's start with the catalog file receive location. So this is the S3 bucket in which we receive the catalog from the MDocs or the legacy system. So most of the telcos catalog has a TM forum compliant. They follow a certain principle, certain process, and they generate the catalog in that manner. Okay, so they will have a like separate plan, separate offerings, and the different JSON and XML format they will have. They'll have like a 20 to 30 different JSON files or XML files, which will have all those characteristics stored in that. Even though they will be related with each other with the help of some foreign key or some primary key with the IDs and everything, but they will be stored in a separate database or in separate JSON files. So what MuleSoft does there? So MuleSoft gets the notification when the any catalog is basically received on this S3 bucket. And who is putting this catalog on the S3 bucket is the MDocs or any other legacy system who is putting those things there. So after that, what MuleSoft does, MuleSoft gets those information, it extracts that catalog information, and that catalog can be a full dump of the catalog, which means it may have 20,000, 30,000 offerings at a one time, or it may have the delta as well. So at the moment, like I'll start with the full catalog dump. That's what we have implemented here. So we receive the full catalog dump into the S3 bucket. MuleSoft extract that data and then load into the database. So maybe people have the question here, why you want to put that in the database if you are already getting into the S3 bucket, because that's also a storage. And that's a very valid question. But why we needed that database? We have used the relational database as a MySQL database, because as I told earlier, so the catalog can be stored in different JSON file. Like the prices are in the different JSON files, discount is in different, and all the offerings and the same type, everything is in different. So somewhere we have to store it and then marry them together to join them to create a data model which can be ingested into the Vlocity. So for that purpose, we had to first store it into the MySQL database to basically join that together and create a data model which can be ingested and into the Vlocity. So now the people will have maybe the question here, like, okay, so when you are getting that, you are loading, then how you are basically notifying the one API to another API. We have tried to follow here the API topologies. So we have followed there here as a experience process and system API. And we tried to implement the event-driven architecture as well. So for that purpose, we have used the AWS SQS. So why we have not used the active MQ, why we have used the AWS, that's another thing. Since the customer was already having the AWS stack available, so there was no point of having the MQ bias, because most of the people here know like active MQ is a separate license which we required. So if the customer already have the AWS, so we try to utilize the full potential what customer already had, rather than just buying the different stack and different technologies. So for that purpose, we have used the AWS SQS to notify the one event from one to another event of the MuleSoft. So I'll start with the 1B now. So once the data is loaded into the database, MySQL database, then MuleSoft gets notification. Okay, data is load is completed. Now go ahead and query the data from the database and then load into the Vlocity. So the Vlocity has a different data model. It has its commercial catalog data model and technical catalog data model. So as I said earlier, commercial catalog are the catalog which are the sellable, which can be sellable on the Commerce Cloud platform, as well as technical catalog are the are basically the products which is supporting those commercial catalog to be able to sellable, like the SIM plan, activation, what will be the data storage and data plan and everything behind those things. So once Vlocity gets those notification, MuleSoft gets notification, it will extract the data from the database and then transform into the Vlocity data model, which is the which is here. MuleSoft pushes the initial load followed to the Vlocity. In this path, we load everything into the Vlocity. So to load into the Vlocity, we have followed the most of the Salesforce integration pattern. In further slide, I will explain more about those integration patterns. On a very high level here in the solution, I'll just explain that we have used the Apex classes, we have used the certain functionalities of Vlocity, which is the very new to the people here, like data raptors and integration processes. I will cover all those in the future slides. So we have used the full potential of Vlocity also and full potential of MuleSoft, so that the everything is not thing is not like a heavy lifting is not done on the MuleSoft. So for that, we have transformed everything, all data into the data model and loaded into the Vlocity. So once the data is loaded in the Vlocity, Vlocity has to do some job processing and other configuration. So like once you have loaded anything into the Vlocity, there will be some sync job which will sync and prepare that catalog, since the data is loaded in different database. So like if I give an analogy of the database, Salesforce is also a kind of database. On the top of that, we have everything, right? So if it is loaded into separate tables into the Salesforce, then there will be some business logic which it will join together to create that catalog. So once that is completed, the Vlocity run its so this is something that Vlocity team does. It runs those process and everything, and they have a certain Apex classes which we call from the MuleSoft only, that does automatically all those things. And once that process is completed, then Vlocity sends a notification to MuleSoft, hey, my work is completed, now you go ahead and extract the commercial catalog and start generating XML file for SFCC. So here, why we have generated the XML file for SFCC rather than using the out-of-the-box Salesforce B2C Salesforce data connector. Salesforce B2C data connector, which is provided by the MuleSoft, is an operational based data connector. That is very good and it is very reliable. Only the challenge which we had, because we wanted to load the data in bulk, not with the like single record at a one time. So for that purpose, we had to use the batch data synchronization integration pattern rather than going with the connector. So what we have done here, Salesforce Commerce Cloud provides their accessories XML format to us. So everything is, those documentations are available on the Commerce Cloud documentation. And as Tushar mentioned earlier, we have appendix at the end of the slides where we will provide you all the links about the Commerce Cloud XMLs and the Vlocities configurations and everything. So what MuleSoft has done again in 1C, it has extracted the data from the Vlocity using the Salesforce APIs. And after that, what we have done, we have transformed that data into the XML structure and the data model of the Commerce Cloud. So in the further slide, I will explain, like we have done some common data modeling also, which sits into the MuleSoft itself. So how we have created that common data modeling to generate those XML files and other things. So once the XML file is generated, then MuleSoft notifies the Commerce Cloud, hey, now XML file is generated. Now you go ahead and get those XML files, and then product will be available in the Commerce Cloud for sellable. So this is our end-to-end solution, which we have created for the customer. Next slide, Tushar, please. Okay, so in this slide, we will try to, as I mentioned earlier, I will try to basically explain what are the integrations patterns we have followed between the MuleSoft and Vlocity. So as Tushar mentioned earlier, like Vlocity is a stack, application exchange stack on the top of the Salesforce itself. So we have followed the most of the Salesforce integration pattern here. So we have followed, first one is request and reply. So which is same as an integration space, we call it as a synchronous. So we have used the Salesforce connector to basically ingest query data from the database and also then create the records and everything into the Vlocity. So to create those records into Vlocity, we have used the standard connector, which is provided by the MuleSoft Salesforce connector, which help us to basically create record, update record, upsert record, everything we have done that. And also we have utilized the Salesforce Apex classes. So we have written a few logics and everything into the Apex classes so that all the business logic should not be sitting into somewhere in the middleware. So we have written all those business logic into the Salesforce, and we have prepared the data. We have prepared the payload, what will be required for that Apex classes in the MuleSoft, and then we have called that Apex classes to load that data into the Salesforce. As I mentioned earlier, we have utilized the full potential of Vlocity also. So most of the people, those who are with the Salesforce background, or they may have just have some idea about the Vlocity. I'm not sure whether they have gone through, get idea of anything about the integration procedure or data raptor. So these two are the new functionalities into the Vlocity. So integration procedure is something like a database people can relate is as a integration procedure, which we write into the database. So like we in the database, we write a set action, set perform, and then like create the record in this table, then go ahead, update this table and create record in the next table. All those things we write in the integration procedure. It is something in the analogy similar way of what we have in the Vlocity. So instead of creating the record using the Apex classes and other things, we also utilize this so that we can utilize the full potential of both the application. So having both the application as the full potential, then it gives us the more benefit of utilizing the Salesforce and Salesforce as well as the MuleSoft. So for the integration procedure, there are certain attributes and certain different Apex classes and other thing which will be required, which we will be explaining in the further slide, so that because it has a certain different Apex classes name and method, which is required to be passed from the MuleSoft. Otherwise, it will not work as it is expected. Next slide, Tushar, please. So this is an example how we have invoked the integration procedure in from the MuleSoft. So as you can see here, we have used the invoke REST method in connector, which is provided by the MuleSoft. In the same method, what we have done, we have our Salesforce configuration, wherein we'll be having the either the JW auth or OAuth 2 with the username, password, and other authentication type, which MuleSoft basically provide to us. So I'll explain in the further slide what the authentication type we have used. But in this screenshot, we have, as you can see here, we have invoked the Apex class method, and the Apex class name and Apex class method name. these things, so I think the people here, the MuleSoft developer, they may be having the question like, are the things auto-populated or do you need to write it manually? Because since when we create a configuration of Salesforce and with the help of MuleSoft data sense, most of the, like if you just click on that refresh yellow refresh button, it basically gave us that Apex class name, what is available into this. But since this is a property which basically does not comes directly as an Apex class, you have to get it from the Vlocity documentation. So thanks to Accenture and the MuleSoft support team, we got to understand all those things, like those Vlocity documentation, Vlocity University. They provide us all those information. Like if you are calling anything from outside using the MuleSoft, you need to provide all those parameters and other things. So in Apex class name, we always have to pass the integration procedure as a service. In the Apex class method, it will be run the integration service and Velocity CMT v1. This is the Velocity package, which Tushar mentioned earlier, because it is a package. So the package can be of version 1, version 2. So it depends upon which version we are using. So some places for the data raptor we have used version 2, and some places we have used version 1. And this DC2 loading billing of for attribute, this is basically the integration procedure name. It can be anything for you. It can be some different names when you create that integration procedure in the Velocity. So what about this queueable channel tool? This is something very interesting. So as a Salesforce developer, people may know here that Salesforce only has a 120 seconds of a timeout. So if you run any Apex class or anything is running, if it goes beyond 120 seconds, it will time out, and the whatever the action was needed to be done, that will not perform. So when we set this queueable channel true, what it does, it basically converts the process into async method. So now what will happen, it will go into the queue of the Salesforce queue. It will run the process until unless the process is completed. It will not time out. For that, something this is required. Next slide, Shah, please. Okay. In this slide, I'll explain how we have invoked the data raptor. So data raptor, so the difference between the integration procedure and data raptor is, so integration procedure can have a 5 to 6 data raptor. So that is basically the superset. So you can have a 5 to 6 data raptor, which can be invoked using the integration procedure. Whereas the data raptor performs a single action. Okay, so if we have to perform a single action, we just have to create a price, we have to do something like just a single action, then we use the data raptor. So in the data raptor also, we have a certain parameter which is required when calling the data raptor from the MuleSoft. So this is something like that variable which we have created before calling that data raptor. It is the that bundle name, which is the name of the data raptor. It is the offer ID, which is the basically ID with which you want to associate that price. And it is bulk upload is false because we don't want to upload to more than 200 records at a time. So for that purpose, we have created first a variable in our transform messages. Then for the Apex class name, in the integration procedure, as you've seen earlier, it should be integration service, but here we need a DR global, and that is a fix, it is a fixed value which you need to provide it. It should always be the DR global in the Apex class name, and in the method, it will be the process post method. And if you see here, we have used the version 2 of that data raptor. And it always will be that HTTPS post and string. I think most of the time when we use the Apex class, this is what we have to do. And that is what required to basically attribute we need to pass. Next slide, Shah, please. So this is I think most of us, if we have done any time integration with the Salesforce using the MuleSoft, we mostly have used this connector upsert, insert, and query. Just to explain what is the difference, how we have used the upsert here, other than the insert and update and query connectors. So the functionality that upsert uses is basically if the record already exists in the Salesforce, it will update that record. And if the record does not exist in the Salesforce, it will just create a new record in the Salesforce. So as in the configuration, what we need to pass is the object type, external ID field name, and the record. So record is basically the value which we wanted to create into the Salesforce. as an external ID. Most of the Salesforce developer knows this, but sometimes it's good to know as a MuleSoft developer also. It's good to know that for external ID, there is a like a Salesforce has to do certain things into the object manager, which basically create the that particular field as an external ID. So it has to be the checkbox of the external ID true, and it has to be the uniqueness. In a uniqueness should be mentioned over there. Otherwise, it will not be it will not treated as an external ID, and we will not be able to like observe the record on the basis of that ID. Either the records will become duplicate or records will miss. And also there is a one fun fact, like as a developer, mostly when we create a basically that transformation where we prepare that data to be loaded into the Salesforce, we will usually, because when you, once you drag and drop the message connector, what it does, it gives us the JSON format and with the square with the array, with the object. So we'll have always the object in there. But in the Salesforce, what we have to do, whenever we are creating a record, we have to pass that as an array. So just something to remember as a developer, like whenever for Salesforce we are creating something, we have to just pass it as an array. Next slide, Tushar, please. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, like what are the authentication types? So there are 4 to 5 authentication type provided by the MuleSoft to authenticate with the Salesforce. So here we have used the OAuth with the username and password, wherein we will require the consumer secret. So don't worry about those consumer key and consumer secret. Like that will be the, if you ask your Salesforce developer or Salesforce architect, they will be able to provide you that. So that's something they have to configure at their end. They need to create the connected app. From there they will get this consumer ID and consumer secret, and that we need to pass as a in our connector, so that so this is a more towards the, like, instead of using just the username password security token, this is more secure using that connected app, because then it only becomes like, okay, the connected app is done, then only you'll be able to authenticate with the Salesforce. And always whenever we are communicating with the Salesforce, always good to have the API integration user, which only has access to the APIs, not the UI, so that we know that, okay, that authentication method is always the API one, not that user is not able to log in from the UI and cannot change anything. So like in the down the line, if you want to track anything, why this is not working or why this has been changed, so that you can easily track, like the integration user will only have access to the API. Whatever the integration user has done, it will be just modified by the API. Nothing else integration user can do. So that's something to remember in terms of authentication. Next slide, Tushar, please. Okay, so I think we have covered most of the things about the Vlocity. Now let's see how we have utilized the MuleSoft to basically translate the data from the database or the sale from the Salesforce, from the Vlocity to the Commerce Cloud. Because the Commerce Cloud is the one who is selling those offerings, right? The product which is being sellable to the customer. The Commerce Cloud is basically the front end to the customer. So how that offers and everything is visible on the Commerce Cloud, and how the MuleSoft basically plays that pivotal role to basically create those offers into the Commerce Cloud. So we have utilized here the batch data synchronization. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a B2C data connector, which is provided by the MuleSoft. And for that, on the operational base, if you just want to create a product, if you just want to create a card, if you just want to create a campaign, something like the just operational based things you want to do into the Commerce Cloud, that connector is well enough to do those things. But in some cases where you want to load like 30, 50, 60 offers at a one time, right? Because what happens every fortnightly, see, the offer will not change every day. You will not go to the Vodafone every day and you will find the new offers, right? Offers usually change within the month or every fortnightly, that either you will get some additional discount or additional benefit is coming on those offers. So for that purpose, most of the telcos, they basically do the bulk load into that. So for that purpose, we have utilized the batch data synchronization. So what we have done, we have extracted all the sellable or the commercial catalogs from the Vlocity. We have translated that commercial catalog into a common data model. After that, translating into the common data model, we have transformed into the XML structure which is required by the SFCC. So SFCC has the set of the XSDs. The links we will be provided into the appendix section. So it has a set of XSDs. If we provide into that format, then only SFCC will be able to ingest that and present that to the customer, basically to show them on their website. So for that purpose, we have created a common data model. The value of having that common data model is, let's say in future, the telco, they don't want to use the maybe like Vlocity, or like they want to use the Vlocity, but they also want to bring some other catalog from different their system, right? And so for that purpose, they only have to convert that catalog into the common data model. And the MuleSoft, we can utilize like MuleSoft, whatever the resources we have built, that can be reused to again extract those catalog also into the XML format. So that is the basically the power of the MuleSoft which we have utilized here. Most of our common data model sits into the MuleSoft. So like we have utilized our API-led connectivity and the common data model structure. And that is the power what MuleSoft has provided us to basically integrate the Commerce Cloud, Vlocity, and other the downstream system. So that the even if the downstream system changes, we don't have to change anything on the front end level, on the customer facing level. Just the downstream system will convert into the common data model, and the rest the resources which is already available, that will basically serve the purpose, and it will be available onto the customer facing. So we extract that data from the downstream system and the Vlocity and translate into the common data model, and then convert into the XML format. And then we notify the Commerce Cloud, okay, it is good to ingest, so that Commerce Cloud can show in as a sellable product on their site. And we have also used wherever we could have used all the best practices and all the connectors and everything everything from the MuleSoft side. We have used the batch data processing. We have used the scatter gather and all those things. Whatever is like, we have used that. Next slide, Tushar, please. So this is something, the common data model which we have prepared. So I'll just quickly try to explain this common data model. So on the top, if you see, that is the product offering. So in the example that's something that $39 plan. And this next one is basically the main component, which is main component is basically the fixed voice, which says like what is the voice plan you need, and a fixed broadband, which says like what kind of the data you need. Okay, and then the voice will have a different type of offerings. Like voice will have a different price. If you want like you want just domestic voice, you don't want international, then you will not have that child component. You will just have that billing offer. And if you just need a domestic, you will probably need that, okay, in domestic, I don't want unlimited. I only want, let's say 300 minutes per month or something like that. Then it will have a different pricing. It will have a different discount. If you go for international will have a different internationals, right? It will have, let's say, like there are some countries where we don't provide the services. For that, there is a different child component. That particular, like, let's say you are having a Vodafone here or a Plus here, and you are going to maybe, let's say you are going to Singapore, and they are not covered under the international roaming. So you will have a different component over there. You will have a roaming charges over there. So all those things basically has, so this is a kind of the mind map which we created. And this is the common data model which we have followed for that. In the similar way for data and SMS also, in the similar structure will be created. So in the future, if any other downstream system or any other catalog legacy system comes, we can translate those data into this common data model and then put into the sellable product. So that is what we have kept into the MuleSoft as of now. And also we have certain in the few places we have used the Okapi API or the data API, B2C data. We have not used the B2C data connector, but we have used the request and reply of this, so that we can notify the Commerce Cloud, hey, I have completed, or do I need to do some query from the Commerce Cloud and all those things. Tushar, next slide, please. So this is an example of that Okapi data API from the Commerce Cloud. So to extract anything from the Commerce Cloud, there is a set of the parameter, or basically they have like every programming language have a set of the syntax. Like if we do the Apex has something. If we do the Java, or like as an example, DataWave has some different syntax. In the similar way, Okapi API or the Commerce Cloud API has a syntax or basically pattern in which you have to write in a certain way so that the data can be extracted from there. So that's something I have like put in here. and as a developer, I know like everyone will be like overwhelmed with all these configurations and everything. So don't worry. At the end in the appendix, we have kept basically the GitHub repository. So for most of the configurations and like for example, Okapi API, integration procedure, data Raptor, for that I have created a GitHub repository which is public and which can be accessed by anyone. And only you will not be able to find the username and password and all those things because that is a property based. So you have to basically identify with your like dev, Salesforce dev or anything, or Commerce Cloud dev to get those credentials and other things, like if you are doing implementation. Yep, so that's all I have in terms of the how we have utilized the MuleSoft to connect with the Commerce Cloud and Vlocity. Back to Tushar for the next slide. Thank you.
Thanks, Satyendra. So in this appendix section, we'll discuss about some of the links that we mentioned earlier. So link to TMF standard is here, tmforum.org. I think you need to use your company credentials. It would not be open to all. Only company credentials would work here. So you can explore the TMF standards here. The next one is the GitHub link that Satyendra spoke about. It's a public repository. So in case if you want to explore the configuration, you can use the GitHub repository there. The third one is Salesforce integration pattern. So this describes the strategies in the form pattern for all the common integration scenarios. The fourth one is Commerce Cloud B2C data connector. I think Satyan already spoke about that. So in case if you want to refer, you can utilize the data connector. The second last is MuleSoft Accelerator for retail. So here you can, the MuleSoft Accelerator for retail includes pre-built APIs, connectors, integration templates, and reference architecture to enable retail IT teams to jumpstart digital transformation initiatives. And the last one is the SFCC XSD. So we spoke about the target data format, or in which SFCC is expecting the XML files. So this XSD which has been exposed to SFCC. So this is a target transformation that we have to convert our common data model into the target XSD format. So this is the XSD for reference. That's all, folks, in terms of presentation.
Thank you so much, Tushar, and also Satyendra. If you could go back to the appendix slide, I think thank you so much. The most valuable assets from my perspective is probably really the GitHub repository of sharing all your secret sauce of all the assets that you share today. All the rest, mostly are general public informations. But really, thank you for your valuable knowledge that you share today during this meetup. I hope all the audience are highly valuable, highly appreciated from all the asset and also the knowledge that you shared. And feel free to keep the questions coming. We have probably quite a limited time, probably another last 5 minutes before we jump into trivia to answer those questions. I'm going to jump on to the first question where someone asked about the recordings for today's sessions and also the deck. Definitely the recording and also presentation decks will be shared on the same registrations page where you join in today within the next 24 to 48 hours. So if you visit back this registration site probably early next week or end of this week, you will definitely get the recording and also the slide deck. So what I'll do is continue posting any of your questions. I do have another question. It's very much of a technical question. So if you can just unshare your screen and I can share it so that I can show the questions to our expert speaker today. And yeah. So this is the questions. Is using JWT tokens of the OAuth flow for SF Salesforce connections a possibility in this scenario?
Yes. Yep, that's definitely a possibility. Alex, it is definitely possibility. So
Yep.
in the current customer has basically, we wanted to use the JWT token, but the customer they wanted to use with the username, password, and with the connected app. So that's how we had to go, because they had a different infosec requirements and other things.
Good. While waiting for more questions, I'm also keen to pose some of my curiosity. If you have Tushar or Satyendra, if you have any tips and best practices, if someone that's never done the integrations with Salesforce, Commerce Cloud, or Vlocity, what is some of the big tips and best practice to get it started?
I think.
So I think, yeah, Tushar, go ahead.
Yeah, so in terms of best practices, there is already an article that we have added in the appendix section. So you can refer that in order to follow the best practices. And even in our presentation, we have described what all integration patterns that we have used. So yeah, there is it's a very broad question, but yeah, I think it's already available on the internet, and in the appendix also we have covered it. So it would be a good starting point. Satyan, anything to add there?
How about Satyendra? You have anything to add?
Yep. So I think Tushar has covered most of the things. So in terms of like integration patterns and everything, what we have implemented here, we have followed what the Salesforce providers and the velocity documentations from the point of view, and we have tried to utilize like a full potential of both the systems so that we don't overload MuleSoft or don't overload the velocity for that.
What do you see is most like the most challenging part for your Telco Australia's project, but in specific this project?
It would be the InfoSec rules and regulations, I would say. It is, although it's a telco,
Yes.
but the rules and regulations are banking client. So yeah, it was very difficult to answer all the InfoSec requirements.
I see. In terms of implementation designs with MuleSoft integration platforms, what do you see the biggest
Yeah,
challenge
so
like that?
this is the thanks, Eva. So this is the very first kind of integration. It's like laying a flag on the moon, because the Commerce Cloud, Velocity, and MuleSoft, like MuleSoft is doing all the heavy lifting. This is the very first kind of integration that has not done any time before by any other consulting company. So yeah, we take a pride in implementing this.
Yeah. Satyendra, do you have any 2 cents of any challenges that so far you have faced with this project? Because this is like probably the pioneer, you guys like the Accenture is the pioneers in doing this first ever project in this region.
So I think for me, the biggest challenge was to understanding the catalog from the downstream system point of view, because either the MDocs or any other downstream system, they don't have any documentation or any understanding that how the catalog things work. So I think Telco's catalog is quite very different from any other catalog systems. So it was very difficult to understand those 20 to 30 JSON files and how they interrelate to each other, as they don't have any relational database or anything from that point of view. So in the initial days, those was very difficult. So I think that was something like we basically learn, like to basically get that something documented from the client, or have some understanding, or having some SME from the client side. That would be more beneficial. I would suggest, like, if someone is implementing this kind of the project, to have some SME from the client side who knows about all those things. Otherwise, we'll just scratching our heads into those things.
Definitely. It is a very good tips. Really get the customers involved as part of the project teams to clear off some of these hidden dark art.
Yeah,
it's black box.
Yeah, I think Satyendra mentioned that as well. Like all these files, the Amdocs files, or we call that as MacJSON files, it is interdependent. So even many a times customer also not clear enough that how these files are interdependent. So you need to have the subject matter experts to in order to answer our questions, because all our integration is based on the relationships within the files.
Yeah. Good. Well, I don't see any more questions coming for today's sessions. Oh, I have one last one. I probably just put it up because we are almost about time. Vlocity is helping in converting the AWS catalog format. Any comment?
Yeah, I think the biggest will be I think, Tushar, after converting the telcos, it will be the server catalog which will be for us to convert.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So is the answer on yes or no?
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Yeah.
Okay. No worries. Okay, thanks for the quick one. So I don't think we'll take any more questions, but if folks, if you have any more questions, curious, any inquiries, I've checked with our experts speaker today, Tushar and Satyendra. Feel free to connect with them through LinkedIn. Feel free to ping them. I mean, they are consulting companies, Accenture. They are very happy to help, whether it's charged or not. So let's you can find out their contact details and all online through LinkedIn. So without further ado, let's jump into the trivia questions so that we can get you started to win some prize from MuleSoft. So this is the pin. I'm just going to share it on the chat. So if you like to log in and have some fun time, I may disqualify anyone from Accenture if you win a prize. Just because you may know of our project and you may know all the answer from Tushar and Satyendra already. But feel free to play it. But if you ever win the top 3, I probably need to reserve that prize to the next folks. Okay, we have around 30 odd attendees still online. So I hope at least half or more than half of you join in. So we don't have much time left. I'm soon about to start. I wish that as quickly as you can, just join into our Kahoot so that we can start the game. So last 1 minute, folks. If you can't find it, just switch to the chat window. I've shared the link of Kahoot. Just click on there. You should be able to join in this Kahoot trivia. Are we on 2, 4, 6, 8? We need more. Once I've started, you won't be able to join anymore, and you're not going to win our wonderful prizes today. We have vouchers, swag. Come on in. And the question is really easy to score. I'm sure it's just 1 hour content. Come on, folks. Anyone else? Otherwise, I am going to start the session soon because we are 3 minutes into 1 o'clock. I don't want to eat into anyone's lunchtime. So please join. Do not hesitate. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Any more? Anyone else like to join in today? You need to be quick. Otherwise, we are going to start the game soon. All right, I think we go ahead and start it so that we can finish on time. Anyone? Monica's and all right, let's go. So thank you so much for your participations and attendance today. 3, 2, 1, we're going to start. And just 2 surveys. First question just asked you about your role. If you would like to identify yourself, it's just a little bit of our surveys questions just to find out you are what is your backgrounds, whether you're from the senior executive, whether you're line of business, whether you're just the operational architect or some others, maybe from marketing, sales, business owner. All right, most of you are architect and developers. And what is your MuleSoft knowledge? We just asked you whether you know about Mule3, Mule4, or both, or you are no knowledge of MuleSoft at all. It's another different tech stack developers. Okay, quite average. So next questions. So we're going to start the first quiz questions. Which messaging queue is used? 20 seconds. So if you know it, answer it quick. You're going to get more points. I'm sure Satyendra has mentioned it a couple of times when he explains the contents. Good. And next questions. Alex, you are the first after the first round of questions. Let's see which connector is used. Same thing is part of the speaker content. I'm sure that if you pay attention, you would have scored these questions too. Okay, most of you get it right. That is very good. JC has ranked and has raised the rank. Persistence storage. Same thing is from Satyendra's content. All right, good. Most of you get it right. Let's see. Alex is running up. Which year? Speed of history. This public information. Probably all of you should get it right. All right, most of you get it right. Next, let me see. Monica says catch up. Okay, this is probably the last questions already. A little bit tricky, but that will determine who is going to be the winner. All righty, let's see who is the winners. Monica, congratulations, Alex and Kanga. I'll reach out to the winners for today for the follow-up trivia contest winners prizes. But after all, thank you so much. We are 1 minute exceeding 1 p.m. And thank you so much for all our speakers today and also all our attendees for our Sydney Meetup today. Let me stop the recording.